Here is my new bike. This is a V9 Roamer Moto Guzzi. Do a quick walk around here. It is yellow. I kind of like the color. A little closer up here, you can see what the color looks like. Looks nice in the sun too. It is brand new. They took it out of the box for me. See if I can see on here. I've got 2 kilometers on it, so it's pretty new. Excellent. Go ahead and start it up. We'll see how it sounds when we start it up. Nice. All right, first ride on my new bike. I'm geared up. I'm ready to go. The Moto Guzzi V9 Roamer. Here we go. Okay, I just want to set trip, odometer, time, outside temperature, 27 degrees. What a nice day. Average fuel, average kilometers per hour, time, trip, odometer, clock, temperature. Okay, let's leave it on clock and let's get on my way to work, I guess. The gears seem very smooth to me right off the bat. I'm having trouble figuring out which one I'm in just because I can't hear it click. Well, initially, I like how it feels. It's light. I guess that's a good thing. It's mine. Can't take it back now. It's light. It's got plenty of pickup. There, we can hear the gears shifting now. The riding position to me seems to like the bobber. My feet are under me. Not as far forward as the V-Star. The clutch is really light to pull back in. It's got that friendly little wiggle when you take off, same as the V7. The suspension seems good going over the tracks. now that I'm sitting and riding, it's similar to the some of the other bikes where I've been riding. I can see the tank a little bit, but mostly it's just gauges and road. So for the first 1,000 kilometers, they're telling me to try not to hold the same speed too much, which shouldn't be too hard for me since I'm driving in the city mostly. I got a little bit of highway, but I guess you wouldn't want to take it straight from the dealership onto the highway and hold 110 for 3 or 4 hours just to keep the work the engine in. Gonna leave it on the clock here and see. I've got 5 minutes to get to work. That's never gonna happen. See, a little warning light comes on here if you didn't shift quick enough for the bike to like. But I like when I take off like that, I can definitely feel the power in it. I like it's trying to pick up the front tire a little bit. It's a very slender bike to ride. It's not much wider than where my knees stick out. My hands, it seems very tiny, especially compared to the V-Star and the Valkyrie, but very similar to what the Bobber was and the GS. This road really sucks for traffic, especially this time of day. But it's really the most efficient way to get me to work. I guess it's a nice little road to cruise down. It's not as low sitting as what the Yamaha is. I gotta stretch if I want to hit both feet. Although just keeping one foot down is not too bad. It just leans over a little, but it's not the same as what the V-Star is. It's a little bit higher up. You can see quite a bit of shake in the bike when I'm stopped, just because of the way the engine is oriented. But once you get going, there's no vibration at all. Once I hit 20k, and I certainly don't feel that wiggle or that rumble in the seat. It's not like it chatters right up to your teeth. It just you can see the bike shake a little bit. It's a killer being on the bike for the first time and being in so much traffic. I want to hit a little bit of open road here so I can pick up the speed. Yeah, so my instrumentation has a little bit going on. There's no tachometer right on here, but there is, I believe, in the multimedia platform if you hook up your phone. I'll play with that later. But it's got, you know, my shift, my clock, gear selection, all the stupid idiot lights. Pretty simple. It doesn't even have miles per hour. It's all just in metric. I guess that's what you get when you get a European bike. The suspension is nice. It's not as rough as what the Triumph was. The bobber was quite a bit stiffer. The seat is, I guess, comfortable enough. It doesn't offer me any support or anything, but feels good. Feels quite agile, actually. It feels very light on the tires. The other thing that seems to me in riding it is that I'm sitting quite far forward. I'm quite close to the front wheel, more so than what the V-Star feels like. I am liking it so far, but we'll see now that I can get onto the freeway and actually give it a test drive, get out of some traffic. The signal light switch is a little different for me. It doesn't push in quite as definite. It's just a very light push to cancel. Oh, just my luck. Construction. I won't get a real good ride on it, I guess, until I get home after work and I can take it on the highway a little, and maybe take the long way home, get a little bit of a ride on it. I think I'm going to be in traffic most of the way here this morning. You don't really notice it until you're driving a motorcycle, but there's a lot of bloody manhole covers in Calgary. Once you start having to dodge those suckers, you start noticing how many there are. It is a very smooth bike to ride. Shifts really smooth. Not a abundance of vibration in the seat or in the handlebars. Seating position, not got a lot of weight on my arms like on the V7 or on the GS. It's quiet too. The engine has a nice noise to it, but it's not loud at all. And I'm not minding not having a windshield, but I think I will have to put something on there. I think once I get up a little faster than this, it's gonna make a big difference, especially if I'm gonna do any kind of day trips or weekend trips with it. But even doing 80, I don't feel like I'm holding on for life. Now there's a heat shield down here to protect your legs from the engine. The engine head is right in front of your knees, just a little low, and if you keep your knees tight you can almost touch that. But it doesn't feel too hot. I certainly haven't pinched it and burnt myself on this trip, and it's pretty hot out, so But you don't want your legs in necessarily too tight anyway. It feels more comfortable to just be relaxed and loose. I thought I was going to make that light, and I thought, oh, now I can unwind it a little bit, and then instead I got to test the brakes. Nothing wrong with the brakes. They told me when I picked it up that it takes some time before they can really grab as much as they should. I guess being a new brake, new rotors, they're got some debris on it or grease or something, I don't know. Well, there's nothing wrong with that pickup. Feels pretty good. Normally I'm not in a hurry to get to work, but I would have liked to have hit some of these lights green. There's no locking tank, which I think is a little cheap on Moto Guzzi's part. Almost every other bike I've ever seen has a locking gas cap, so I may have to get something there. Especially parking at the mall all the time. I don't know what idiot's going to be playing around dumping something in my gas. No problem slowing down though. That brake is quite ample for how I'm going to be driving this anyway. I like how light the bike is. I can just handle it over corners easy. Parking like this is so simple. There we are. First ride on the new bike. Does have a wheel lock, so you got to push the key in and turn it, and then it's locked, which is pretty good. Standard, I guess, for motorcycles to have. Well, I am definitely going to get wet now. I'm fortunate that at this mall they're allowing me to park back here. There's a little bit more protection. And there's a security camera. Okay. This is definitely easier to get in and out of the parking spot here than the Valkyrie. It's a much more slender of a bike than the Valkyrie. Ooh. Let's see if I can get home before that starts to really come down. Well, this will be a great test for my, I guess, rain driving mode. See if I slide around too much as the road gets a little wet. I'm a fairly conservative driver, so I don't think that it's going to be too much difference for me between the rain mode and the regular mode. Well, one thing with this bike is it doesn't offer any protection at all from the rain. There's no windscreen, there's no side screens keeping it off of me, so I'll probably be a little wet by the time I get home. Although it is a short drive and it's not coming down terribly hard yet. So if I mowed down here, I can see fuel, kilometers, time, trip, odometer. There I'm in mode 2, which is my rain mode. Traction control. Ooh, Lots of lightning. Spot will be happy when I get home, that's for sure. He'll be going nuts right now with this lightning. He does not like that. Now I do feel that I can move around on this seat. I know that was an issue in some of the other motorcycles I drove. Some of them didn't have a lot of room for me to move. You sat in one spot and that's pretty much where you stayed. But this guy, I can move forward, I can move back. Depending, you know, if I want to lean forward a little bit to sit into the wind, I can move my butt back and then lean forward a little bit. I like this drive home. It's a little more relaxing than coming on the highway. I think it's a little bit slower, but there's no traffic. I can just take my time. And the last thing I need on the way home is to dodge in and out of traffic and worry about the guy going too slow in front of me. And it's just so much nicer to come home. Nice country road. I mean, the scenery's not that much, but it's better than looking at the back end of somebody else's car. The bike itself does not sit as solid as what either the V-Star or the Valkyrie sit. If I wiggle my butt around, the bike wiggles, whereas on those bikes they're very solid. You really got to counter steer. You really got to get your weight around to get them to wiggle like that. But this bike, I guess the center of gravity is just a little higher. My seat's up a little bit more, and I can steer with a little bit of weight a lot easier. It's not nearly as heavy as either of those bikes either, and I think this is kind of the experience more that I wanted, is something that's easier for me to muscle around, whereas those larger bikes, the 1100s and the 1500s, are harder for someone like my size. I'm not a heavy guy. To muscle about. It's a little lighter, a little easier, and it just feels more agile, easier to move around, especially at the low speeds and in the parking lots, which I'm in a lot. This is not just a highway machine. But it holds the speed real good. May want to get a throttle lock just to make it a little easier on my hands when I'm going a little longer at one speed like this. The suspension is nice. Going over these rumble strips feel very soft, whereas the ridges that I was hitting with the Triumph, the bobber, were very rough. That suspension was very stiff. And I found this very comfortable to ride. Hitting any kind of bumps at all are just very smooth. Any roughness in the road is very smooth on this bike. I'm not feeling any heat coming off the engine with the engine cylinder heads right there by my shins. I expected that they'd be quite hot, but I'm not feeling any off of there. Certainly not a blast of hot air like I felt on the Triumph bobber once the radiator kicks in. Of course, no radiator on this. It's all air cooled. So I'm not going to get a blast like that, but I know previous bikes that I've ridden, I've felt a lot of heat coming off of the engine, and I'm just not feeling that on this. I expected, because my knees are so close here, that I would feel it, even to an uncomfortable degree. I was hoping that that wasn't the case, but I'm not feeling any heat at all. So if that's something that you're questioning, no, I'm not getting any heat off of there. Of course, it's cold right now. It might be different, but even riding this morning before the rain and when it was 28 degrees out, I wasn't getting a lot of heat coming off of the engine. Well, it's fortunate that it rained. I got to use that rain mode. Again, I'm not a real aggressive driver, so I don't know that it makes a lot of difference for me, especially driving in break-in, what the manufacturer suggests for me to break it in, not to drive too fast or take off too fast. Not that I do anyway. I once in a while like to do it just to get it out of my system, but for the most part I'm pretty conservative. But I guess you never really know what that traction control is doing until you try to avoid an accident. Then you'll be glad you had it. And that is my first ever ride on my brand new Moto Guzzi V9 Roamer. A total of, I think, 50 kilometers. 55.2 kilometers for my first outing on it. Right into the garage.